relate to, because all of us are human and all of us have ever been, I don't know, angry. It's a common human emotion. At one point in time, we've all experienced it to varying degrees. It is something which binds us all together in the realm of human experience. There is some aspects of anger that we're not really comfortable with. Because of these situations, we've come to the point where we, as a people, have decided that we need to define and understand what anger is. Further, we've come to a point in our development where we've started treatment for anger. That way it can be expressed in ways which are socially acceptable. In speaking about anger, I'm going to refer to three major sources. One of them is going to be Heather C. Kemp, who authored an article called Diagnostic Differences and Treatment Implications. This was in the Journal of Social and Clinical Psychology. By Stephen Kemp and K.T. Strongman, who wrote Anger Theory and Management, a Historical Analysis in the American Journal of Psychology, as well as Dominic Parrott, Amos Zechner, and Mark Evses, who wrote an article called The Effect of Trait Anger on Cognitive Processing and Emotional Stimuli. And this was in the Journal of General Psychology. On top of these sources, I'm also going to refer to some of my own experience. I personally have been involved in over 500 plus hours in an anger workshop as a facilitator. On top of this, I've spent many more hours outside doing personal training and studying and research on my own. In total, I've been involved in this program for over 9 years. Now, when we talk about anger, this is not a new problem. Matter of fact, I'm going to read an excerpt from this man right here, Claudius Galen, who lived between 129 and 200 Common Era. This was from his book. When I was still a young man, I watched a man eagerly trying to open a door. When things did not work out as he would have them, I saw him bite the key, kick the door, blaspheme, glare wildly like a mad boar. And when I saw this, I was convinced of such a hatred for anger that I was never hereafter seen behaving in an unseemly manner because of it. As I talked about this commonality, even the Bible speaks about anger. Ephesians 4:26. It says, "Be angry, but in your anger do not sin, and do not let the sun set on your wrath." Yet, in most of the cases when we talk about anger, we have this negative connotation about it. We say, oh, he got angry, that's so bad. Why would he behave that way? There are God-given reasons for our anger. There are human expressions which need to be dealt with anger. Further, when we talk about this, you see how prevalent anger is that go into any bookstore. And this, of course, is not just the anger section. It's just a picture of a regular bookstore in Argentina. But a growing number of authors are treating this subject more clearly and more definitively. Anger management is one of the largest growing genres of self-help out there. One of my particular favorite authors in my reading is James P. Gilligan. And he wrote a book that's called Preventing Violence. What was interesting in this book is that in all of his research, one of his pointed quotes was he talked about the root of all violent action stems from anger, which at its base dehumanizes the object of its anger. Without it, we are unable to hurt that which we perceive as being human. It's an interesting thought. As we go further, there is more research, particularly by Heather C. Lynch, who's quoted in a lot of law journals and so on and so forth when it comes to the issue of anger. Courts are referring more and more people to anger management type programs. There's being more and more research, both clinical and informal, concerning anger. We've seen this trend over the past 20 years. We devote lots of our resources of our legal system, in particularly, to doing things like these nice little graphs. And by the way, this is a national graph of violence. It's not California, so this is not the result of 3 strikes law, just in case you're wondering. So we have recognized, even in our legal and judicial system, that this is something which we need to be concerned about. Some of this research, and particularly from Parrott, Zechner, and Ebbes, they talk about, well, anger has basic roots. Part of these roots, and most violent action starts with angry words. Now, we all have heard angry words, but they always have an effect on us. These phrases, such as, "You mean nothing to me," "I hate you," these are normally precursors to violent action. And while intellectually we understand this, emotionally we pick it up on a different level and it affects us. It's important that we realize this not only in ourselves but in others, because it helps us to be safe. Further, my own experience in the Alternatives to Violence project, I have spent over 40 workshops I've been involved in one way or another, either facilitating myself personally or supporting. And in some of these, I've had a bunch of different experiences, one of which is probably one of my more poignant ones. I watched a man who was a skinhead, a white supremacist. He was in a group with a Crip from LA, a black man. And the black man was talking about the pain of being separated while he was locked up from his daughter, that he couldn't be there for her during the times of heartache and tragedy. I watched this skinhead get up, walk across the room with every eye on him, and embrace this man and shed tears with him because he felt his pain. Anger is something that can be shared. It's something that can be dealt with both clinically as well as informally. It is something that can be understood. And it is definitely something that needs to be addressed in our society. Thank you so much for your time.